So
Sure.
it's just good old heavy rock. And speaking of good old heavy rock and really good segues, Blood Lemon, welcome to Clean and Sober Stoner.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
am missing Lindsay.
I know. She doesn't really do interviews very much.
I mean, she does, but she doesn't.
yeah.
You know, so the thing is, what I'm going to do is I'll hound until I can get one-on-one with Lindsay. Okay, the story, how I discovered Blood Lemon, if you don't mind. I have this good friend named Alan, and he actually had Melanie record with his phone a greeting to me. Hi, this is Melanie from Blood Lemon. If I can find it, I'll put it up here. That's my good friend Alan. First time I've seen him in like 10, 12 years. So we're watching videos back and forth, and he played the most horrible stuff. Like some of these choices he made, these daughters, you know, like boomers and their kids doing cover tunes of like Crosby, Stills, Nash Young and Elton John. And I'm like, dude, you have known me for 30. Why are you doing cover tune of Elton John? So I got pissed, right? I'm just totally pissed. He's like, oh man, one more, just one more. So the most awkward interview I've ever seen in my life was, I'll edit this part out, but it was the Chicago Music Exchange interview that you did.
Honestly, Lisa handled it like a champ.
Oh, God.
Goddamn champ. Like, thank God Lisa was there, because I don't know why.
Cracking my shit
That guy
up.
was he was ridiculous. But
I was
like,
not having any of him.
no. But I think that's what makes it like work, is because you totally get the vibe from Lisa. Like, all right, I will meet you there.
Oh, you did. You not only did you meet, you exceeded. And the guy, I mean, you know, and I didn't even have a video up. It's my inspiration for doing this channel. It's like, I can do fucking better than that. What the hell?
Yes.
And I'm like,
I mean,
it's my bucket list is Blood Lemon. And I told Al, I said, I will get that band on my channel. So
happy to be here.
So
100%.
And what sells me is you had the Riot Girl vibe. You had that very indie vibe. And then the camera pans and Melanie's playing through a dark glass cab with a dark glass head and then the pedals. And then Lisa, your guitar work comes in and it's like, oh my effing God, mind is blown.
Right on.
So that's how I got introduced to Blood Lemon, and now here you are. And it's just thrilling. So congratulations on Petite Deaths.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I think the first thing that I want to know, and I think a lot of the bands who watch the channel, how in the hell did you get Dave Catching at Rancho De La Luna?
Well, we have a great manager and tour manager, our friend Dan. He's worked with other bands in the past. He's tour managed for Cindy Wilson of the B-52s, and he also did a tour with Failure. And so he worked with John Russo, who works with Dave.
Okay.
At Rancho. I think John was a guitar tech, possibly.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, so Dan worked closely with him, and he just kind of got to know some really great folks in that side. And I and Blood Lemon, both of us, right? We're playing at Pappy and Harriet's in Joshua Tree.
Yep.
Blood Lemon was opening for Built to Spill. Yep. So we played that show there, and we had such a great time, and we had an extra day off afterwards. So Dan said, like, I'm going to go pop in and say hi to John. Mel, if you want to come with me, you know, maybe check out the studio, Rancho De La Luna. And I'm such a big fan of the desert sessions. I wanted to go for sure. So I went with him and met Dave, and he was so sweet and just instantly felt comfortable.
Yeah.
Which is not, I don't know, it's not really a common thing in studios sometimes. Sometimes it can feel very stale. Sometimes it can feel kind of intense, you know. But there's something about the feeling there. It's very calming. And I just kind of had a really good feeling about it. So we talked about it, me, Lisa, and Lindsay, and thought it would be a good idea to bring these songs to Rancho De La Luna. Yeah. And I'm so glad we did.
The thing is, if I were to listen to this blind, not knowing anything, by the way, I've been making this joke for a while, that eventually I'm going to do Stoner Beat magazine like the old Tiger Beat. Nice. Right? And it'll be my Blood Lemon issue. So it'll be Melanie, what is the secret behind her horoscope? And Lisa shares her favorite recipes, and have the pictures. I need to do the mock-up.
Yeah, totally. That sounds amazing.
If I were to listen to this without knowing anything about the band, not in a million years would I have guessed that this was a Dave Ketching production, because what it reminds me of, and here's your hyperbole, so take a breath and roll your eyes now. There's this band called Cowboy Junkies who can set up in a room with a single mic and the whole thing. The clarity of this recording, particularly the vocals, I cannot detect any digital reverb on them. I can't detect any effects whatsoever. There's definitely no auto-tune. It's such a natural recording that I want to know, what mics did Heath Lifting use? I know you won't know that.
I remember he used a brand new one.
It was brand new. He'd never used it before.
Are you serious?
Yeah, it was like new from the company too, that they just sent it to them
to try it out. And it was
I can't remember. But we just used it on both of our vocals, and I'll admit, at first we weren't sure about it because it was very, very clean, and like that dry kind of cold sound, but to their recommendation, they wanted to record it that way, so when we give it to the mixer, he can do what he would like with it. And specifically, we asked Paul Malinowski to mix it, and we wanted our vocals to be warmer in tone. So but he said it was actually a good easier way for him to mix that way, and it worked pretty well for him. But yeah, it was a little bit of a worry of ours, because we were like, I don't know, like it might not be warm enough, because typically I think both of us draw to kind of warm vocals that blend more with the instruments. But I think because we're such a vocal heavy band, it made sense for us to record it that way.
That had to be like extremely frightening. And I'm trying to imagine, it's like basically you're taking off every stitch of clothing and you're trusting the person doing the mixing that, don't worry, by the time we're done, you're going to look gorgeous. I can't even imagine what it's like going in there. Your instruments, did they record the amps, or were you plugging into the board? What was going on there? Or a little bit of both?
All kinds of amps. And I even, with bass, we reamped mine a couple times too. In Rancho, Dave just has like a huge like walk-in closet of like just these stacks of bass amps and cabs. And then there's a bedroom that he sleeps in that is surrounded by different guitar amps.
Filled with guitar amps. Yeah. And so it was like, let's go in, let's plug in, let's decide which one we like and which one we want to use. And let's record a couple of different, like through a couple different amps at the same time. And then we have what options available when it's time to mix it.
Yeah. And we used Lisa used, I think, a couple Highwatt amps. I used some orange ones. I don't normally play through orange, but we were able to really like experiment and just play through multiple kinds.
Your nastiest bass tone ever, for the record. Like it can push lesser speakers past the edge. It's great stuff. And to me, it is an audiophile level recording, though, because, I even use my Sony HD 800Ss with this, like the best gear, and it's like it still breathes. Like I can hear your natural breaths. I can hear your fingers on the guitar strings. I can hear some beautiful imperfection in it where they actually captured a performance. Did you say that you were trying out different guitars?
Not guitars necessarily, though. I did do just mostly guitar amps that we tried out. And then on a couple of things, Dave did say, hey, let's add a line like with this guitar. Like I got to play a couple of his guitars, which was really awesome and very generous.
No kidding. What's the setup like? Is it like butter? You just just put your finger down and the chord emotes.
Yeah, right.
There's a picture of me like where I just have like
his flying V.
His flying V, and I just have.
And he set up like all sorts of different pedals with it too, because we wanted like a couple of the chords to be sustained, but to give off like a really nice feedback. I think it was for Mudlark. Anyway, so there were a few times where,
and he's just like on the floor, like playing around with the like pedals as we're like recording stuff and getting like sounds. Yeah.
Kind of like when they did Pink Floyd Dark Side of the Moon, they have footage of Alan Parsons getting in there and doing things while Gilmour is playing. That's flipping awesome.
Yeah, we threw some of that. Like we have like a tiny bit of stuff that we took with our own camera phones and stuff, and incorporated some of that into the video for Mountaineer Lower. From that session. So you get there's like some hints of Dave catching in there in that video.
Are there any uncredited guest appearances?
On the album?
Yeah. It's like catching doing something in the background, or somebody just shows up and does this little thing.
I don't think so, actually.
I think so.
I think it's all us.
Yeah.
See, it's the Tiger Beat thing, I need to find the hidden details.
The nuggets, yes.
Okay. So the EP comes out, and I'm going to I have one major criticism of the album, but I'll have to say that the audience is going to have to stay. It's actually on the second song. The arrangement of the order of the songs to me is fascinating, because you do what you accuse Banshee of doing. You start out with High Tide, which to me is, if there's a prototypical Blood Lemon, this is straight down the middle, it's going to be High Tide. And I think it's a great choice. Did you have this material prepared before you went to the studio?
Yeah, we did. There was I think High Tide and Perfect 2, we played quite a bit live beforehand.
Yep.
Those ones we just kind of needed to work out by playing live multiple times to see how it was received. And then, we ended up playing Her Shadow a little bit on the tour before with Built to Spill.
Yep. And
the cover, actually, of Mountaineer we did at Tree Fort before.
Yeah, we played it off and on for a while. And it, we had talked about it, and it felt like, why not? Like we've made it kind of its own version of that song. Like, why not record it?
Yeah. And Mudlark was the only song that we came into the studio with that wasn't entirely finished.
Yeah, so it was a very baby song.
It and finished it in the studio.
Yep.
It's an interesting ending. Ending on Mudlark is an interesting choice. Because I would think Mountaineer Low would have been like the one that you do at the end. I might as well go all over the place. The decision, did you decide the order of the songs when you're in post-production, and what went behind? Because Mudlark just gradually takes us home, right? It's like that nice gentle landing after the last three albums literally tear you apart, in different ways. Deliberate?
I mean, for me, yes, totally deliberate. I think the order, I don't know, I get so picky about the order of songs.
I had a feeling you did. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah.
Because everything about this feels spontaneously deliberate, if that makes sense.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I kind of knew that I wanted to end the record on Mudlark when it finally started forming, and we got like the first mix in, and we recorded sounds of coyotes yipping in the distance, and we got some of the chimes from the studio. It's out on the patio. So we did some field recording, and it just felt like the kind of song that we wanted to end, like what you said, you're coming home. It's a long journey. And the whole album is like it's a long journey. Even though it's 5 songs, they're all pretty epic songs in their own right.
Yeah.
They all have their own character and their stories and climax and just different resolutions to each of the characters. So it just really felt like we needed to end the album as though we're resting after the long journey, basically.
Okay, then my observation will make sense. I debated whether to bring this up. It reminds me of the Moody Blues Days of Future Past, in the sense that high tide is like the sunset, that's the morning, that's the dawn, everything's bright and all that. And then you go into the afternoon, and then Mudlark is like the sunset that takes it home.
Yep.
Yeah.
Totally. I think just overall, in terms of like how we create, we kind of we're driven by seasons, and, you know, as though there's the beginning of a day and the end of day, you know, and I just feel like sometimes albums kind of need to come out that way, in that sense of resolution and rest. So, yeah.
That's a really good point. And with the scene, especially in the heavy, yes, there's a certain retro vibe to it, but I don't think it's derivative. I think there is a yearning to go back to the more album-oriented, not necessarily concept. I mean, you didn't do Lamb Lies Down on Broadway by Genesis, or thank God, Tales from Topographic Oceans by Yes. Yeah, let's avoid that one. But there is more of that sense of this album is meant to be a beginning to end experience that I think is refreshing. And I think, you know, the heavy underground, Stoner Doom in particular, is really bringing that to the fore. But that brings me to my one criticism. So Her Shadow is one of your best songs ever, which is saying something. It's the second longest at 6 minutes and third longest, 6 minutes and 22 seconds. What were you thinking? This is a 20-minute extended jam at the end, and you cut it off way too early. Couldn't you have made this a full LP if you had just droned that bitch out another 20 minutes?
No, we want people to want more. That's the whole thing.
It's always about leaving it for people to want more, for sure.
Do you do the mega, you know, drawn out version live, or does it still?
I mean, there's the option for that, right? But we haven't taken it that far. I mean, I don't know.
We've done a few times like a longer version.
Yeah, definitely.
But not that much. We're very much like, we're a band where we say it, and if we don't have any more to say, don't any more to add, you know, we're not gonna, I don't want to say waste your time, but we're not gonna, you know, it's just something that we want to make sure that is well thought out.
Yeah.
Is there an alternative mix of this that stretches to 12 minutes?
No.
I'm doing my best here because...
No, but, you know, if we ever need to give you a present, we know what to give you now.
Oh, yes. oh my God. That boom. So I think for people who, by the way, audience, thank you for tuning in to this. I really appreciate it. I think that Her Shadow, if I'm introducing Blood Lemon to somebody, say they've never heard him, and I know that they're into heavy psych, this is the song that I go to introduce them to.
Nice.
It is such a heartfelt. I felt like it was an homage to the spacier, more psychedelic. You know, you can shred, Lisa. You can shred. You can do the Ingvi thing when you want to, and you don't hear. It's the restraint of this. How did Her Shadow come together? Like a song like this, what's the evolution of something like Her Shadow? Because it's just that good.
Well, that one, for Her Shadow, Lindsay wrote the lyrics for. And
Lindsay, okay, you're not here, Lindsay. I need to know. But that's okay. We'll talk for you.
She wrote the lyrics in college. She actually she wrote a couple songs of her own that she recorded with friends, and she showed us some of her songs, and specifically that one. And she thinks she was saying that she wanted to redo it basically with us. And I listened to it and I was like, I think I can figure something out, but I'm going to change like the whole feel of the song, if that's okay. And she's like, yes, please. So she gave me the lyrics. And I just worked out a similar cadence to the phrasing that she originally had, but I changed the chord progression altogether, changed the key, changed the melody. And it felt, once I brought it to Lisa and Lindsay again, we added on top of it, and it just kind of became more of a heavy Blood Lemon song, which is what we wanted. And then the second half of it, when it goes into like a weird samba bossa nova fusion kind of groove, that was also
is just so, you know, the first time I heard that song, I was going on I can walk now up to like 2 miles. Like when I first got diabetes, I could do a 1/4 mile, and I'm like, so I go on these long walks now. First time I ever heard that song was on one of those walks, which is why I'm so angry it ended so fast, because it put my head in that space.
Yeah.
Of, sure, I need this to go on forever and ever and ever. Unfortunately, it just goes into the greatest cover you ever could. Mountaineer Lower. What the hell was going? That one is, yeah, it just is. That is so effing heavy. I think there's an inherent heaviness and doom to Americana and bluegrass. The way they sang, the tempo that they did it at. But how did you choose, or did that song choose you?
That one, a lot of Jessica Pratt's songs are gothic in nature. They're very dark. And I remember listening to it and thinking like, oh, this would be kind of an interesting song to cover and maybe even slow down a bit. And I remember just thinking about it. I just sent it to Lisa like, oh, you know, and Lisa loved it immediately. And I think it was because of the harmonies, right?
Oh God, I love a good harmony like that. Yeah, totally. Because like for me, like as much rock and roll of every flavor I've listened to in my lifetime, like, gosh, there's that like sort of Southern rock, Americana, old timey kind of harmonies, like with bluegrass and whatever, that just, I love it.
Very haunting.
Yeah.
So we decided to cover it and make it our own.
You certainly did. And what goes through my head whenever I listen to it is I can imagine you guys are on Prairie Home Companion, and Garrison Keillor just introduced you, right?
Sure.
And so we're getting ready for some picking and grinning. Yeah. So you start out with that, and then they get hit in the head with Monolord type, these monolithic chords that just
blow your hair back. Yeah,
they do. It's like that old Maxell tape thing where
absolutely,
whoa, unexpected. But realistically, Blood Lemon, the three of you could do anything in the world that you want, right? You can nail almost any style. You could do you could be doing corporate gigs for like Coca-Cola, right? And
no, thank you. I mean, I don't think I want to do that.
Where does your love and adoration for the heavy come from?
Oh gosh. I think just as like a songwriter, I feel like a lot of songwriters actually really like heavy music, because it carries an atmosphere and um, I don't know, and like a motif that is, repeated over and over. We've seen this in, old compositions in classical music, and
Totally.
and it's something that I think is very satisfying also for a listener. And so I've just always been drawn to slow, kind of repetitive, but it's still going in a direction. It's still building, it's still stretching. And so I've always been drawn to bands like Earth has been always a huge influence of mine. They're kind of the people who started, doom, stoner doom in a sense. But like, or Black Sabbath, Snowblind, those songs like have that kind of weight to them with slow, heavy riffs. And it's just something that I've always been really drawn to, and showing some of my ideas and slow, heavy riffs to Lisa and Lindsay. I think because those two also have songwriter minds, they're also drawn to that same kind of feeling. And so it clicks for us.
Yeah.
Lisa, you lean into it so hard and so heavy so many times. Where does that come from? What is the emotional experience for you where you've got the harmonies and you dial that down? You just get this feral look in your eyes when, like, about 2 seconds before you take this breath and your posture changes and you lean in. Not that I've watched any of your videos. What is that like for, like, just you're wielding that power where you could do it so delicately, and then you just let it rip.
I've played music for a long time, and coming of age in the 90s, as a girl, and not even a woman quite yet, like it was hugely influential for me to like have all of these women all of a sudden, what felt like all of a sudden, coming to the forefront in popular music. And of course, at the time, like what I was exposed to as a child for a long time was just like what my siblings had listened to, and grunge, whatever you want, alternative, etc. When that came out, that was like the first time I had a music that wasn't something my siblings had listened to. And that kind of led me down, this path. I was always drawn to music, and then I went to school for music and all of these things. And I've played as like a singer-songwriter. I've played in an indie rock band. I've done some other things, but I think the thing that is really so great about playing in Blood Lemon for me is that there's a comfort in playing with these other women for me. And there is there's like, there isn't a lot of pressure to fit into any kind of template that has been put out there, but there's also an empowerment that is, that I've come into as a middle-aged woman. You know what I mean? Like, just like being comfortable in my own skin, and just knowing that I'm doing that. What I'm doing this for is for myself, like, and the fact that I know how I connect with other musicians, and that like there's that space then for other people to connect with our music in the way that is meaningful for them. But when, if we're playing, like when I come in on Mountaineer Lower, like it just feels powerful in a way that it has nothing to do with anybody else, but just me playing something that just feels right and feels good in my body. And that, like that experience is enough. Like I love that. I want people to hear the music. I want people to find it that are going to be liking it. But in a lot of ways, it's just to be in that moment. It's like meditation almost, like just being present and creating an art form that you can just be present for.
Yeah.
So by the end of Mountaineer Low, And every time I listen to the album, it really is like I've listened to it for the first time. Like in prepping for this, I put on High Tide, and it's like, oh my God, how did I forget how effing good this is? So I get done with how do you follow up Mountaineer Low? You do it with Perfect 2.
Right?
That is, now I'm assuming Melanie wrote that?
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. I mean, the bulk of the song. Yeah. I think that's been one of the kind of the nice things about this project, this band for me, and the working relationship that we have is that, we can bring a song to the group, whether it feels done or not done, and there's room to say, hey, what if we try this, or this isn't working for me, or what have you, and in a lot of just safety and just being like, hey, what if we tried this? And so sometimes what's so great about it is like Melanie will come in and she'll be like, here's what I'm hearing. And I'll be like, what do we try this? And then it just like, there's like so much that's just like organic about that. Then after, writing and working on several things together, it's like, there's the ability to try something without being too self-conscious about it, and just accepting that, like, if it's not working and if it's awful, you can tell me and it's not going to hurt my feelings, like it's okay. But then also, like, because of that, like, I feel like something greater often comes out of that, like you bring this thing that you worked on and you have this great idea, and then it just becomes even better when we work on it as a group.
Truly. I mean, with Perfect 2, I just had the first half essentially written. Like, I had the riff written and I had the melody. I wasn't sure how to do the choruses necessarily, or like how heavy I wanted it to be and what tones and stuff. But then we worked through that part. And then once we got to the end of the first half, I just didn't know where to take it. I was like, I feel like it needs to go in like double time or like some kind of faster thing. Cause I knew that I wanted, with the concept of the song, I wanted it to feel like it was like taking off somewhere and inspiring movement and, taking action. And so I explained that to the ladies, and we just I think we just jammed it out, right?
We just jammed
it. Sounds like a jam.
Yeah. And we just found within that jam, we found a chord progression in it, and Lisa thought of her brilliant guitar lines, and Lindsay got a really amazing way of slowly building up, but still like having that energy and pressure going.
But, it's one of those songs that can easily be a soundtrack. But the whole album is like that. I'm going to geek out a little bit on the bass thing, if that's okay, Lisa.
Yeah, sure. Of course.
Melanie, so you start, now we're using the orange on this one because there's a breakup that I haven't heard in your other stuff.
I believe so. And I remember I was still using my 360 fuzz, the De Cosmo 360. And I just turned up the tone way more than I usually do, and the gain more than I usually do, because I just really wanted it to be prevalent in the recording. And then I think we even enhanced it even more while we were mixing. Yeah. And I think that's just kind of how it got crunchy, like a more crunchier tone.
That's an understatement, because what it reminds me of, to me, it's a throwback of some of the early Kaya stuff, some of the early Queens of the Stone Age, or Hermano or Slow Burn, just the whole John Garcia side of things. Starts out with the bass thing. Usually they start out a little mellow. They start out, I'm going to build to it. No, you're nasty, like right from the beginning. I can hear the tubes breaking up as you're doing that. And bass players, look, I'm not a bass player. I just am surrounded with bass. I think bass, it's a masterclass of tone and emotion and how to evoke a different thing, because you don't carry that through the entire song. You all of a sudden become very staccato, very articulate, especially at the end. And I'm just in love with the fact that this is an obvious bass player wrote this thing. It's a very bass player, but you didn't try to show off. You're not doing pentatonics. You're not, flying all over the place. No. It's just steady beat of you're changing your attack. You're changing a little. How? It's just so good.
Aw, well, that's very sweet. Thank you. I think for me, I studied music and learned how to play complicated things, but then the biggest hurdle is learning taste and knowing when to keep it simple for the sake of a song, and what a song actually really needs. And that is kind of the constant thing that especially bass players were always trying to find. What is this thing that's going to take up space, and then what can I do to fill in the space here without it being too much, because it is so easy for these things to be too much. And yeah, I think with that song, it was definitely an exercise for me to keep it simple, sort of, but still contribute to the buildup of the song as it grows and it gets louder and more aggressive. And
but you actually tend to get more staccato and a little lower. You're letting Lindsay and Lisa take it home. Yes. There at the end. You're sitting back, you're like, here it's almost like you wrote that as a little present to your friends, and you just let them take off on it. And I really do wish Lindsay was here, because it's her finest, most in the pocket, hitting everything that needs to be hit. And I think that the brilliance of Lindsay is she knows when not to play. She knows when not to do the fill. She knows when not to, because come on, most of the guys I know, it's going to be cymbals. It's the big animal from the Muppets who's going, arr! No, it is her most disciplined, I think, creative drumming in the absence of what she's doing. And how the three of you do that blows my mind.
And Lindsay is very much, she can build the same drum beat, and she can build it by adjusting her touch. Right. And that's exactly how she builds that second half of that song.
There's no ego in it, too. It's it's this composed. She reminds me of Meg White, who's horribly underrated as
100%. I 100% agree with that.
She was musically, her contribution to White Stripes gets missed by, I think, 99%.
Absolutely.
And I think Lindsay brings that same intelligence of, no, I'll save it. And then it's time for her to bring it, right? And she goes, no, I'll save it. She's constantly saving it. And then when she does do it,
it's so satisfying. Yeah.
Then I have to go back and go, wait a minute, did she just do a fill? Oh my God, she did. Listen, those are toms.
Yeah, right.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, I would the experience of being around Lindsay is one where she's kind of like a secret weapon a little bit. And she's awesome as a person, but she really doesn't have an ego as a performer. And I think that one of the things that I'm hearing in what you're saying is there's a lot of respect for space and simplicity too in what we're doing, and not, you said, not having to overdo things necessarily. And I think Lindsay is very thoughtful in that way as a drummer of what she's doing and whether it's working. And she will try adding things in, and then she'll be like, I don't know, is it too much? But she's really, really thoughtful, I think.
Yeah.
All three of you play with a sense that you don't really have anything to prove.
No, I don't feel like I have anything to prove personally.
No. Yeah. And I think that's what's been so freeing being in Blood Lemon is the three of us just respect each other as musicians as we are, and know that we're here to just write good music together and play it together. And, we're not trying to prove anything with this band.
No, I feel like it's such a great balance between like taking the music seriously, but also not taking ourselves too seriously.
Yeah. Taking the song seriously.
Taking the song seriously and having fun with it and just seeing what happens with that, and enjoying it.
Yeah.
Because you're so stingy in your touring, I haven't had a chance to check you out. Although someday I'm going to pop in. I won't even tell you I'm coming. Some way, somehow. Like I said, I'm going to get you on the channel. I'm going to see you live. Watching the video of, and there's a decent amount of video of Blood Lemon out there. You all are having fun. Your eyes are locked. You're like, you've got the smile. Ooh, here's the fun part. And then you're all in on it. What's the audience reaction? Because when you read the lineup and who you are, and you're well established in the Boise scene, by the way, much respect to Boise.
Thank you.
And Idaho in general, for the amount of quality stuff coming out of there. Do you ever take an audience off guard to where they're expecting one thing and then you bring the other and they kind of like, they don't know what to do? Do you enjoy that?
I think so to an extent, but
I think we always do.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's true. Like I'm probably being, I think it's been fun to kind of just see that reaction. Like I tend to hang out at the merch table a lot when we play shows, and so I get a lot of that interaction with people who just kind of come out and don't know a lot about us, and because we've done a lot of opening for other artists, and which has been great. And like we did a tour opening for a goth band, and like crowd was amazing, and they kept, what's it like we get the question a lot of like, what's it like being a goth band in Boise? And I was like, I don't know, because we're not
being a goth band.
But
you've got the pink hair, you just need some piercings, couple face tattoos, you're fine,
right? I don't know, but the people come up and they'll be like, like Perfect 2, for example, was a song that we were, like Mel said, we were playing it live a bunch before we actually recorded it. And that song got so many people who would come to me and be like, so that guitar tone at the end, how are you doing that one thing? And like,
how are you? What's
the name of that song? And so, like that's really cool to see that people make that connection first time hearing something like that. I think that's exciting. And I think, like it's fun to take people by surprise. I don't like, why not?
Yeah. It's been kind of the nature of some of the songs that we write too,
Sure.
They take a left turn,
Exactly.
And because of that, we kind of jump genres, and people don't really know where to place us.
Okay. If there's so question for both of you, a genre that you haven't touched yet, and there's a lot, like, what, do you have anything up your sleeves? Anything you want to spring on us? Like, what can we expect down the, just for me and my peeps? It won't go anywhere.
It won't go anywhere. I don't know. We've always talked about, I don't know. We have such a embrace for pop songs and turning them heavy.
So love that.
So maybe a covers album of some Bangles and Bananarama.
It could be fun. Like I think sometimes I'm like, I bring ideas for covers to the band all the time, and I'm always like, hey, what would be really cool is if we did blah 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 blah, and they humor me, and I love them for it. But it is kind of fun to turn a song kind of, just like one of the first things that we really fooled around with and had fun with when we were just brand new playing our first shows as this band was Roll with the Changes by REO Speedwagon.
Yes, we did.
We slowed that sucker way down. We had some
slowed it down, made it really heavy.
Harmonies. Oh God, it was so much fun. Yeah.
It was
Do you have
really
any?
fun.
Do you have any files of that I can?
Oh man, I don't know.
I might.
Anything, any archive
There
stuff
might
you
be
have.
some, like, those like voice memo record. That's like the best app on an iPhone for me for songwriting. It's so great. You just like have those little ideas, but you can just turn it on and there might be some. I could check my phone.
I think we might have recorded a couple practices with it.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome. Well, gosh, ladies, this has been not good enough. I need next album. I need to do part 2. This has been so much fun, and I was like, do you ever like really look forward to something and it was actually cooler than you thought it would be?
Oh,
that's sweet.
This is that.
That's awesome.
Thanks, God.
So, each one of you, last question, is there anything you'd like to say to the Stoner Doom crowd that is so openly embraced you now? Like anything other than just your musical poetry and prose? Most awkward question I've ever asked.
I really appreciate the embrace, because I'll be honest, it's been taking a while for us to kind of, get those kinds of recognitions, because we do come from an indie scene. We're very indie, and we still have that within our songwriting,
Thank God, don't lose it.
No, we won't.
Please, it's.
Well, I think that's what, like, heavy music, stoner, doom. I feel like that's kind of what we need, is the openness to branch out into other genres and molding it as well, because it becomes more interesting and more fun, and so we really appreciate the recognition for sure.
Yeah,
you're a guitar player that when I listen to your guitar playing, I think of Leslie West and Mountain, probably because you're playing an SG, right?
I am playing an SG. I played, so previously I played a Les Paul Studio Gibson, like for a long time. Like I got that thing in like 2009, and I played it into this band, and then a few years back got the SG after we had started this project, and I love those double-humbucker.
That they're dirty, they're nasty, they shouldn't work. They do.
I like the full sound. Yeah.
So there is a little bit of collective awe in that guitar tone that you have. So what do you have to say to your newly found Stoner Doom fans that are going, God, that fucks?
Well,
I love how kids talk today.
Listen,
by the way,
I having played as a woman guitar player, because so you have to throw that in there, right? I have had so many dudes tell me like, we gotta change your amp out and fix your tone and blah blah blah, and I'm always like, really? Do we? Who are you? Like, why are you telling me that? I didn't ask you for it. I think it's like, it's always wonderful to feel accepted for doing the thing that is authentic to who you are. So thank you.
Yeah.
It's
hell yeah.
On behalf of the scene, thank you for everything that you're doing for music and the scene in general. And thanks for making, it was a good day. Thanks for making my year. Like, I can survive.
We can all try.
Yes.
Try to survive.
Much respect, greatly appreciated, and I can't wait to catch up with you all again.